Hi, I'm Don Tinney, an English teacher in South Hero, Vermont, currently serving as your Vermont-NEA President, here with State Senator Debbie Ingram, who's running for Lieutenant Governor. So we'll just get the conversation started, Senator, and ask you, why are you running for Lieutenant Governor?
Thank you, Don, for this opportunity to speak to your members. I've always said that whenever I run for public office, I'm doing it to try to improve the lives of the people that I serve. I really view political office as being a public servant. And I particularly wanted to run for Lieutenant Governor because I think that the demands and the opportunities of the job are a really good match for my skill set. So first of all, there aren't that many designated duties, but you have to be well prepared in case the worst happens and you have to step in to become governor. And I have a great deal of political experience. I was on the Williston Planning Commission and then the Williston Select Board for 12 years. And then I've been a state senator for 4 years. I've been a manager of a small business. I've been executive director of a statewide nonprofit for 13 years. So I have the political and management experience to do a good job as Lieutenant Governor. Also, I think that my experience being able to listen to people, to everyday Vermonters on the ground, folks who are experiencing the issues that we're trying to draw up policies on. When I listen to folks, I always feel that they are the ones who understand the issues best, and they are the ones who probably have the best ideas for solutions. And so I would definitely bring that to the Lieutenant Governor's office. And then lastly, I would say that of all the candidates that are running for the Democratic nomination, I am a person who has a great deal of life experience that will translate well into this particular time where we're coming out of the pandemic, and we're also galvanized because of the racial injustices that we've seen. I'm a person who's taken some hard knocks myself in my life and been able to come out stronger on the other side. And I think that I can provide that kind of inspiration and role modeling and healing to folks across the state.
Thank you. And moving to a very current topic, I'd ask you to share your views about the reopening of our schools.
Well, reopening anything right now really kind of scares me, to be absolutely honest. I mean, we've seen what's happened in other states where they've started reopening too soon. I think for the most part here in Vermont, we've gone slowly enough, and that's been good. But we absolutely positively have to pay attention to the science and to to our health department protocols. But I very much support the Vermont-NEA's call for a task force that involves again, people on the ground who are really going to have to deal with these issues. Teachers need to be involved. Parents and students need to be involved. It shouldn't be just a top-down reopening process coming from the agency. So I would definitely support a task force and more dialogue and coordination between the folks who are actually going to have to deal with this, because it's there are a lot of considerations about whether we're going to take kids' temperatures, whether we're going to have different shifts so that the classrooms aren't so full, whether it's going to be a combination of remote and in person, all kinds of considerations. And we really need everybody working together to make the decisions.
Thank you. As Lieutenant Governor, how will you address systemic racism and inequity in all of Vermont's institutions?
I believe we have a very strong record on trying to dismantle systemic racism. I have supported or introduced legislation to from making Indigenous Peoples Day permanent to introducing an amendment to our Constitution to clarify the prohibition against slavery. I championed the legislation that created the Ethnic Studies Working Group, that created the Racial Equity Panel and Executive Director. So I've done quite a lot in this area, and the nonprofit that I run, Vermont Interfaith Action, has also been very involved in racial justice. So, so first of all, I would, to address it in our institutions, I would turn to advocates who are people of color, who are Black people, who have been dealing with these issues, thinking about these issues for a very long time. No sense reinventing the wheel, but also I think the adage, nothing about us without us, also really applies. So we need to make sure that anything that we do, we're doing in coordination and conversation with the people who have been dealing with the discrimination and who have been thinking about ways to bring about justice. And then secondly, I mean, there will be a number of different things that we can do. I think that race data collection in all of our different branches of government, all of our institutions, is very important, because then we have actual hard data to show us how people are being treated differently. And that gives us something, you know, real evidence to base changes on. And I think that kind of thing is important. Other ideas would probably involve maybe setting up ombudsman, or you know, particular kind of enforcement protocols, whether that involves the Human Rights Commission or the Office of the Attorney General or some other entities. You know, all of these kinds of things should be considered. And then lastly, I think it's very important for us in Vermont, particularly since we're so predominantly white, to really help white people to understand their own privilege, to understand how we have benefited from discrimination, and that's one major reason why it has continued. And so as Lieutenant Governor, I would definitely make that a part of any education or town halls or workshops that I would do across the state, which is something I'd like to do. I mean, it's been a journey for me to understand my own white privilege, and I've been very intentional about it. And I think that a lot of Vermonters would benefit from having discussions and dialogues and events where they can begin to understand that people of color experience Vermont very differently from the way that we white people do. And that awareness is also extremely important in making any changes, and making sure that white people are responsible for taking action.
Thank you. And to wrap up our discussion, I'd like to give you a chance to offer any final thoughts you'd like to share before we leave.
Great, well, thank you. Yeah, I just want to make sure that your members know that I have served on the Senate Education Committee the entire time that I've been in the Senate. I'm currently the Vice Chair of the Education Committee. So education issues in particular are very important to me, and I think I have a good understanding. I have been able to work with, you know, with yourself and Colin and Jeff over the years, and your predecessors, and you know, and understand what concerns you have, and I've always been a huge supporter of workers and of labor unions. I like to say that I've been a Democrat since I was in the womb, because both my parents were FDR Democrats, and they really believed that you know, the idea of government was to create a level playing field for everybody. So to really protect workers and labor unions, because they helped make people's lives better and protected their interests. And so that's ingrained in me, and I'm a big supporter, and I would really be honored to have the support of many of your members.
Thank you, Senator. And on behalf of my fellow 13,000 members, I'd like to thank you for sharing your thoughts with us, and we'll see you on the campaign trail.
Thank you very much. Sounds good.
Thank you.